Okay, we got 20 minutes 59 seconds on this one. And this one is quite interesting for me because I'm, yeah, I've noticed that mm, there is this hierarchy of density that I can I can show to other people. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And I'm quite self aware that 100% of me, 100% of time, statistically is gonna be impossible for 99% of people. Even 99% out of 8 billion is quite, quite a low number because it's basically not even percentage because 1% of 8 billion is gonna be still quite a lot of people. So it's basically one or two people, if at all, that 100% of me, 100% of the time is gonna actually be not welcomed, but kept up with. I've had so many instances that I talk to someone for one day, let's say, 5 hours straight about everything, and they keep up. Sometimes they actually get ahead of me in energy and in engagement, but the next day they're gone because not because of the intensity, because the the density of and the duration of that density. So what I mean for my future self, so I'm not talking in a scripture, is that today I wrote something, and it was just my people call it poem, but I call it kind of political manifesto on making the kind of the delay on the inevitable kind of more visceral. So I wrote a poem on the decision of the European Union on um, IRGC's status of uh, as a terrorist organization. And I was quite hesitant to post it on my professional LinkedIn where I have mm, policymakers, global lawyers, and everyone, or I do it on my kind of a more dense. That's the hierarchy of density that I'm kind of unfortunately compartmentalizing myself in. That I do it in the other LinkedIn, which is kind of more of a free fall. I remember in that LinkedIn, I literally posted my bank account with literally zero numbers back in a couple of months ago and asking for people to fund my euthanasia. Uh, that's kind of dense. And the funny thing is, even that is not gonna be as dense as I want it to be. So, what I mean is that I decided to post it on my actual professional LinkedIn for whatever the reason, and the picture was just um, Kala, whatever. I actually sent her an email once, 2 weeks ago, I think, telling her exactly do this, but of course, they're not gonna listen because the political leverage points of having a fucking armada uh, behind the borders, and also Trump saying, "Hey, France, you're not gonna agree to this." I literally have this role play in my mind that Emmanuel, Jesus, Emmanuel, no, no, Trump, no, no, Donald, IRGC, IRCG, IRGC, good. Then Trump says, okay, 200% tariff on everything. Then Macron says, um, VV Trump, VV IRGC bad, because if I'm not mistaken, Spain and France were the last line of defense to agree for this, because how it works is either one member state goes to court, which honestly people are more of a pussy to do that, so no one was doing it. And now Trump says, okay, I have literally an armada that I can literally invade a country that their people are actually asking for it. That's the disaster of the whole situation. My friends are sending me videos and pictures of people dancing in the street, throwing worthless real or toman at other people dancing, begging to be hit by missiles. Imagine. And unfortunately, this has happened. Like, maybe I just perceive the world differently, because that's the tragedy of being a genius, let's call it. I don't find any less eccentric and egoistic word that represents the actual reality of things as well. Is that you see things so faster than others, that's almost ridiculous. That 10 years ago I saw the same thing happen, and I was looking around, okay, where is this Islam we're talking about? I don't actually give a fuck about their gods. And when I was 15, 16, I wanted to get out of that country because I knew where it was headed. And 10 years ago, things were drastically different. But I was seeing the pattern happening, and I said, yeah, this isn't going anywhere. And I had even a conversation with my dad then, that the the thing that happened to the West is that when I was even 15 or 16, is that they didn't show the godhood of God totally, that they still kept God on the leash in churches. We call them klisa. And yet still the God is allowed on the soil. In Iran's situation, I don't see, I literally told my dad 10 years ago, my dad and I are not in very great relationship anywhere in our history, but we did share the least amount of intellectual curiosity, I think. So that was at least something to grab onto. And what happens is that God is not gonna be allowed in Iranian soil even for 1 millimeter after all of this shit is done, because the atrocity that has been committed in the name of God, I don't even give a fuck about God, and I literally have philosophical exploration of the idea of a God is tied to human nature for control and definition of suffering and allocation of suffering. And you need as sophisticated as a system to replace God, not as a God on earth or a man God, as I call it, but or a God man, as it being popified by all of these religious kind of organizations around the globe, but a system that doesn't even necessitate explanation of suffering by a higher being, but because everything is explicit and everything is transparent. And we're moving towards that world, like it or not, because every indication is that we're moving towards that world. But anyways, so I posted that and I sent it to my best friend, bestie, bestseller bestie, as I call him, very great guy. To be honest, I could call him if he wasn't pushing fucking 60 years old, and status current status difference wasn't either uh, kind of mentor mentee status difference or a bestseller with no name person kind of status difference. I would call him my best friend, but I cannot because that would be kind of the status difference pushing that onto me. We are friends, very good friends, but I'm not gonna call him my best friend because I know that's gonna be the temptation of status seeking 26 years old in me. Calling a 60 something years old um, kind of bestseller, philosopher, whatever, as best friend for literally evaluation by association, as I call it. So I literally sent this to him, and he was so in awe that he literally said, "Okay, I'm already pushing your work to everyone I know, but this one, I'm literally gonna put my name on it." Sometimes he literally says, "I wish I had written that." That's like the hierarchy of appreciation because he has a name. He literally told me he busted his ass to get his bestsellers and whatever for 20 years. He cannot actually accept in his heart of hearts that someone who just is just pissed at the world for how it is and writes seriously for 1 year is writing better than his literary heroes, comparing me to Dostoevsky and Nietzsche and whatever, like without even breaking a sweat. Then of course, I recognized it and I proposed him this kind of challenge, intellectual challenge that hey, I write in Persian or Farsi as well, and I really adore myself writing in Farsi better because the full flair of my actual poetry comes from Farsi and all of the languages I know. And I said, hey, you start learning Farsi. I'm interested in learning Chinese because both of his languages I already know. He is Canadian, so I already know French. Sure, I can be in the environment to speak French, but I already have full proficiency of understanding of French. So I've literally written articles in French. So, and English, you see, my English is not breaking. Sure, it's not native speaker, but I manage. And I said, hey, I like Chinese. I actually like the culture. And I've met very wonderful people who are Chinese. I knew this girl who was Chinese, and she was literally starting to teach me the differences between Chinese and Japanese. At that time, I was learning Japanese. Very, very, very kind of devoted people. That bothers me on the philosophical level that the individualism in Chinese people is literally non existent. That I've had so many friends that appreciate my courage, my bravery, and my freedom of thought. But I say, okay, bro, you're the same. I had this very talented cook and thinker in my Leiden kind of journey, and he was very smart, but he was so shy. He was Chinese. He was so shy. I didn't understand him. Why would you give a fuck about other people who themselves are not gonna make any name for themselves to begin with? It's like the whole social dynamic of embarrassment I don't understand because embarrassment or whatever is just a one sort of social capital that you can leverage to be accepted in the society. And coming back to the whole narrative here is that being semi self-aware about that, I have devised myself in this hierarchy of density. The most dense one is my YouTube videos. In this channel, I have like 5 other channels as well. Because I'm literally, hopefully, making videos that are not gonna be seen by the algorithm. The thumbnail is literally random, my face, this quality, literally this, um, on the YouTube page. So if someone is gonna literally follow me, is not for the edits, is not for the anything, is literally for listening to someone yapping, and that's that's a very very weak signal that is not gonna attract more than 20 people. And how I know YouTube works and algorithm works, I'm literally making these videos for 10 years later, because now no one is gonna see it. And this is fine, because this is literally the documentation of the actual evolution of my life. And as a writer, I love documenting things because it just keeps the emotion raw, and the friction of understanding years later, decades later, seamless. Because one of my personal challenges has always been, when I read successful people, when they were on the rise, they didn't know they're gonna make it, so they didn't actually make any documentation of their feelings. I don't feel their fear, but it's gonna be very powerful when you know you're gonna make it and you still document the anxiety, the whatever. So I'm making this video, literally 4 minutes of it left, is to share one of my most kind of private thoughts that it just occurred to me, because I'm in a very kind of precarious situation with visa, money, and everything can fall apart literally with a snap. Worst case scenario, I can literally be deported back to Iran next 2 months and be persecuted as a spy because of my foreign education, and tortured or killed. So that's literally on the cards, and that's not me panicking about nothing. That's literally, I can, because of my foreign education, get rejected for my actual, let's say, if I go to the asylum case, for the asylum case, and this could happen. So, but today when I see my friend championing my work, literally 2 days ago he was saying, hey, I literally posted on the channel as well, and pissed me off so bad that I had to literally write him back. He literally said Nietzsche died unknown. You need to be ready to be Nietzsche. And I said, no, I'm not gonna be fucking Nietzsche, because Nietzsche didn't fuck a pussy in his life. And I hate Kafka because he accepted and made his whole identity by being nothing. And miraculously, I don't know what the fuck happened, this mediocre of a fucking writer became the canon. Whenever I read Kafka, I'm literally fucking sick to my stomach, because even craft-wise, he had a good premise and he fucking ran with it. And this is not coming from someone who doesn't know how to fucking write. I've been writing since I was 8 years old. So 2 days later, I sent this piece to him. He literally goes back on all of his words and says, hey, you need to get discovered. I'm gonna make you get discovered. And that, of course, kind of makes me a bit happier. And with the density of my own dampening emotions lifting up, my emotional clog, or kind of, I don't know how to say it, we're literally running out of time, lessened, and I felt more about my people being killed in Iran rather than the next message. And this is very kind of difficult for me to explain, even write about it. That's why I'm literally burying it in the 1 minute of a 20 minutes video, because this is very strange territory for me, that I'm feeling more towards my own people, fuck my own people, towards another fucking human being, being killed for their wanting for actual freedom, and I'm feeling more because of the immense pressure on personal level I've been. And this can be a pathway towards me not facing that future, which is okay. One publisher accepts me. He is already pitched me to a couple of publishers waiting on answers. But this one also is gonna add to the whole tally. So the chances of me going back to Iran and being tortured and killed are lessened. So I literally am allowed to feel more for people, which is very kind of intellectually fascinating to me, but also emotionally devastating to me, that I can dampen my emotions so hard that I actually get to feel after my personal kind of survival instinct is kind of suffocated.